America, you have crossed the line. I declare war.
Eat a hamburger or dog, because I have plot armor.
Did you know that when you're eating hamburger is getting less and less hamburger because you is eating hamburger. At first it was full hamburger, but then you take a bite.
So, as we know, America and China are both very strong countries in Wixo and have a lot of history throughout the series. Both of these powers started rising after World War I as the Chinese had won the war, and that's very self-explanatory. After World War II, the Americans also had gotten independence, and now they are also a world superpower. And as we know, the Americans and Chinese have been playing a game of influence and beefing over the course of the last few episodes. It even almost started World War V until the other and leaders stopped them. But this scenario is looking at an alternate scenario where they actually did start World War V. So let's get into it. To begin this scenario, we start over in Rome. They recently have been going on an economic downfall, and it's very, very bad. Due to this, the Chinese look at this and start to fund rebels in order to try and get rid of an American ally. They support rebels in Catalonia, Yugoslavia, and Austria, as those areas were the most rebellious parts, and it's not good for the Romans because even though they have a strong military, it's not willing to fight for them as they aren't getting paid. The rebels are able to take lots of land from Rome because of their basically zero-person military. Eventually, though, this will grab the attention of America as they see China is trying to get more influence. As the Americans send their military over to Rome, the Chinese begin to supply a new rebellion in the boot of Italy. This is even worse for the Romans and start to lose of all fronts. But eventually they are able to peace out with the Catalan rebellion, and for now they are able to send their military to help fight against the new rebellion. As the Yugoslav rebellion snakes their way down the Roman coast, they see that there is no hope left for that land, as there's also a new rebellion in the boot. And so by trying to win the war, they will make the hard decision to call all troops back from their Balkan land and abandon it. This is a huge moral loss for the Romans, and now they are only losing and losing. Just as the sides are pretty even, a new country breaks away and Rome realizes, "Hey America, I'm losing this war very badly. Can you help me more?" And America says, "Hell nah." And America says, "Why, of course, Rome." But in order for America to send their military and provide more economic aid to Rome, they have to get land closer, and so they decide to buy off the northern Balearic Island in Malta. Using this, they are able to help them push back the Blue Rebellion in Sicily, but still overall see loss everywhere else. Over the next 2 months, the front lines don't move too much, although they still have Rome losing. The Americans tell Rome to just surrender and give up any land the others want, as there's really no hope of winning this war. As we can see, 5 new countries have been carved out of Rome, 4 of them, which have already existed. Following this, China recruits half of them with their point being, "Well, I helped them become a nation, so it's only fair if they join my alliance." But they are still angered at the Catalans and Red Mediterranean country for not joining. Now, if we go back a little bit, we can remember during World War IV the Americans had something to do with the government change in Norway, and this angered Poland a lot. They went from their #1 supporter to their #1 hater, and because of this they will join their rival alliance, being the Triangle Alliance. It's here that we see the Americans start to worry as their enemy is getting stronger and more countries are teaming up with them, so they decide they need to go ally shopping as well. The countries they are able to get into the Mercedes Alliance are the communist Primorsky country and the Purple Team. The AN leaders such as Ireland, Greece, South Africa, Tibet, and finally India tell both sides to just calm down and not start a world war. This only angers them even more, and China makes the call for their European allies. They need to be able to connect up with each other. However, there's one problem. Who do they invade? Why, Hungary, of course. They instantly move troops into them until Rome also invades with the intent of getting land and stopping the triangles. It's very weird as the Romans are able to take lots of land very quickly, and it's as if they are being supplied. But who? As the war ends, we can see Rome has somehow occupied the most land, even with them being so unstable. As the peace treaty comes a few days later, we see Rome gets a very weird border, but then we remember who was supplying them. That was the Germans, and they hand over some land to them. They have been close to the Americans, and they will decide to join the Mercedes alliance. But after this, both alliances go silent for about 6 months, and the world thinks everything is going back to normal until China orders for the Gold Team to invade into the tiny country north of them, and they don't even want to fight, so they surrender immediately. After that, they tell the Gold Team and Seafoam Siberia to invade into the Light Blue Team Oswell. But little do they know is they joined the Mercedes alliance 3 hours after they got invaded, and so they are ordered to stop. However, they will take lands that they occupied. Here, we can see the most militarized borders in the entire world. Somehow both alliances think this is the best place to focus on, but something weird is how the military is guarding the border of the 2 blue Central Asian countries, even though they aren't in the Mercedes alliance. While the Triangle Alliance invaded the 2 countries, the blue countries put their differences aside and put a few spies into the Chinese country. They did this as they were somewhat allied to the Mercedes alliance, and they figured tons out, such as how the West Mexican country was going to invade New Mexico, and China was going to have Central America close the Panama Canal for the Mercedes alliance. And they also figured out how the Chinese were using the fascist bloc, and they wanted them to invade the rest of South America. The biggest thing they found out, though, was how China never actually got rid of their nukes, and still have all 10 of them. This really angers the AN and the fascist countries. But wait, what's that in the corner? The Chinese ended up killing the spies of the blue teams, and they also killed a few politicians of the blue teams, and so they decided to unite with Pink Kazakhstan. Now moving over to the Americas, the blue countries were correct, as the West Mexico country does in fact invade New Mexico, but the Americans don't respond quite yet, as they think the New Mexican country will be able to stand their ground. Well, that was very short-lived. In this peace treaty, weakened the New Mexico country completely being wiped off the map. Next, if we move down south, we can once again see the blue countries were right, and they shut down the Panama Canal to all Mercedes members. Due to this, we can see they get invaded, of course. Now, they will instantly surrender because they don't want their entire country destroyed. Am I stopping it so soon because I want to get this scenario done? Maybe. But not long after this invasion, Brazil says something to the world. They state how America's imperialism is bad and how America needs to get out of their continent. They also speak about how China has been trying to control them, and so in response to all of this, they form their own military alliance, and they invite every single fascist country in which they all join. Obviously, the Chinese aren't going to take this, and they decide they need some new allies, so they look at their old Circle Alliance allies, Tibet and Afghanistan. But before we talk about if they join or not, let's go back in time. As we go back, we can see the most militarized border, but if you didn't notice the first time I showed it, it expanded into Tibet Oswell, meaning they already were working with the Triangle Alliance, so obviously they joined. However, Afghanistan would refrain from joining because of their strong connections with India. They also don't like the things China is doing and prefer to just do their own thing. With the loss of Afghanistan, China decides they still need more allies, and so they look down at Vietnam. Now, you'd think Vietnam would happily join due to the previous government change, but after the war, India actually took more care of Vietnam and set up their government to be closer to India than China. But after a quick civil war funded by China, Thailand gets independence and joins the Triangle Alliance. But China still feels threatened by America and Brazil, and so they decide they still need more allies, and so they look at a country formerly a part of them, the Philippines. But they tell the Philippines to invade the southern countries to strengthen them, as they are preparing for something. They then ask for the Indonesian team to join their side, but they will declare neutrality because they don't like China and how they are controlling the Strait of Malacca. They also ask the other Indonesian countries, but they also refuse. Now, because of this, we can go back to Europe and discover a major plan of the Chinese. Germany leaves the Mercedes Alliance and joins the Triangle Alliance. Seeing how Germany betrayed the Mercedes Alliance, the Farmers' Union will decide to join with their previous allies. China isn't the only one who is going to try and get more allies, though, and so America looks around for new allies. But before they add any new countries, we can see South Argentina and Chile put their differences aside and unite. About a week after their unification, the rest of the non-fascist countries on the South American continent joined the Mercedes Alliance with the intent of stopping radical ideology once and for all. The Americans somehow hack into Australia's government files or future plans and get a hold of that they wanted to invade the rest of the oceanic islands. And so America continues with their imperialism and sends their navy over to the Bismarck country, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, New Caledonia, and the Grey Papua country. They make landings on a few of the islands until Australia jumps in and tries to take the rest while they can. Once all of the oceanic islands are invaded, we can see that instead of Australia doing all of the invasions, it was actually America and didn't really get any of the islands, as they only got the main Caledonia Island and Papua Great Team Islands. But what America didn't find out was that their navy was actually already surrounded around the islands, and especially New Guinea. They decide to take their revenge and invade them. This really shocks America, as literally the hour after the annexing the islands, they use their islands and make a landing. Australia mostly focuses on the southern part of New Guinea to get their pre-WW4 lands back, but then something happens. The Triangle Alliance makes a landing in the islands in the north of Papua New Guinea with the main goal of taking more land than Australia. Obviously, they won't let this slide, and will use their amazing navy to make more landings. This war isn't too eventful, so we can just time skip. Here we can see the occupied lands after the war, and see how both sides kind of split it evenly. Now we can see the Australians will get the southern part of New Guinea, with the Philippines getting the islands of Guinea and China getting the rest. But after this peace treaty is over, the new tripolar system goes silent, just like 2 years ago. Nobody makes a single invasion or even speak out on anything. But this is good news to the world, as the chance of World War V starting is seemingly lowered. But with the silence in the world, we can look at the top 10 power rankings. You may notice how there is a line between Brazil and India, and that is because there is a huge gap between the two. And what I mean is Brazil is way stronger than India. However, I'd like to say America and China are basically tied, with China just a little bit stronger. Brazil is still way stronger than India, but also doesn't really compare to the other two. The rest on the list is pretty self-explanatory. Wait, what the hell just happened? Brazil and the fascist bloc declare war on the Mercedes Alliance and Triangle Alliance. And the Triangle Alliance declares war on the Mercedes Alliance. But wait, America and Mexico also didn't get rid of their nukes. I've hinted this and showed it a few times if you have good eyes. But anyways, this will be the end of this scenario, and part 2 will come out soon. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please consider leaving a comment, liking, or subscribing. And make sure to tune in for part 2 in maybe a week or two. Goodbye.